$4,000. That's what Barbara told me. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Don't want to leave that out if we were at.
Yeah. We'll be starting in just a minute. Josh went to make a couple more copies. Well, fine, thank you for that. It's been moving. It has been moving singularly. Look at this. Sir?
I got mine. I said, oh my God, bigger than the
And then,
financials.
Candy, this is for you.
Thank you, Josh.
Just what you've always wanted.
I wanted all of this. I was gonna give it back and I didn't.
What's that?
I was gonna give you all this back a couple weeks ago, but I didn't.
Got it. So that's for me.
No, this is for me. But I was going to. I was going to, but then I kept it, and I was like, oh no, did I just jinx it? I don't know, I didn't want to jinx, so I kept it, and then here we are.
So you got your schedule, Monday, June 12th, our next meeting, and the 5th, right? Referendum on June 27th.
Graduation on the 15th, but it shouldn't affect what we're trying to do. The only thing I'm worried about is screening. Okay. Because are you gonna put something on the screen? I'll see if I can hold off on putting the banner up. Okay. And so after that, which I think shouldn't be a problem. Okay. And then we could put the screen down, after when the meeting's over, put the screen up, and I can put my banner up. Graduation.
Let me know tentatively. 4? 4. 12. Yeah, the 12th. Monday the 12th.
27th.
Well, we're
It's
gonna
projected.
recommend it, we can't.
Yeah, it's recommended, but
make
it's,
it, so.
yeah, exactly. We'll get into it.
We can recommend it, but we can't make it.
Town meeting. Oh, town meeting makes it. Suggested.
Recommend it, motion it at the meeting.
Like anyone speaks up at our meetings. Thank you.
Everybody ready? All set? Good evening. I'd like to call the special meeting for the Board of Selectmen for Thursday, June 1st, 2023 to order.
Candace Bouchard.
Jonathan Moorhart.
Candy Perez.
Josh Kelly.
Todd Archelashi.
Glenn Albanesius.
Stephen Sedlak.
Linda Grappo.
Jack Bork. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The town's budget referendum was held on Saturday, May 27th, 2023, with a failed vote of 522 no votes and 378 yes votes. Given this, the annual town budget meeting may be reconvened at any time between Saturday, June 10th and Saturday, June 17th. It is the recommendation of the board that this meeting be scheduled for 7 p.m. on Monday, June 12th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you, Candace. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you.
And then we're gonna recommend the town meeting be on, I mean, the referendum.
It is the recommendation of the registrars of voters that the referendum be held on Tuesday, June 27th, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That date will be set in stone at the town meeting, though. So of the 900 people that voted on last Saturday, May 27th, the majority determined that the budget was too high and that it should be reduced. So I would like to open the discussion.
Object to that. I'm not sure the vote was to say was too high or not. I find it difficult to know that 144 different voters would say yes, it's too high or too low. I think it just didn't pass. But whether it was not passed because it was too low or too high, I don't have any realization one way or the other on that.
Okay, I will change my wording. The majority of the 900 votes voted no. So at this time, I'd like to begin our discussion on cuts that we'll need to make to the budget. I'd like to open the cuts at $200,000 to the town side and $200,000 to the education side. Discussion?
If I may.
Josh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am, of course, disappointed with the results of the referendum. It's never something that you want to see when you take so much time and care, like this Board of Selectmen did, in crafting a responsible budget that invests in the town. To see it fail at referendum like that is heartbreaking from my perspective. But I am in agreement with the mayor, with Todd, that something needs to change. Whether it's up or down, I'm not sure. I know, given the conversations that I've had with residents, there is a concern about inflation, and so I have to assume that there's an interest in seeing the numbers drop in the budget. I can get behind a $200,000 cut on the town side. I won't speak for the Board of Education, but I know everybody should know that I've had conversations with the superintendent. We're both of an understanding that there will be reductions, and we are both prepared to work alongside all of you with the Board of Education to make those cuts as palatable as possible. The first thing that I would like to do as a part of this reduction process is offer up to the Board of Selectmen, given the fact that there are other changes to my proposed contract that can be made to accommodate me, I would propose that my raise that was recently approved by this board at one of your regular meetings be rescinded. So I have an amended contract for your review that will codify a reduction in my salary, and I offer it back to you as part of these reductions, whether they be $200,000, $150,000, or somewhere even perhaps beyond that.
Thank you, Josh.
I reject that request. That's my opinion.
You say reject it?
Correct.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
bring
I would
$5
reject
million.
that request also.
You bring millions and millions of dollars in grants for 15,000, it's insane.
You know, if I could speak.
Candy had her hand up first.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to say that we should look at the other adjustments in the contract that we could make, but that the minimum increase in your salary be 2.75%. And I know it's been a lightning rod. I've heard enough. I've talked to over 24 people since the vote on Saturday, and I believe that it's unwarranted, the criticism that has come for it, but it's a reality that I had somebody point blank say to me, when you change his salary, I'll vote for the budget. So I thank you for offering that, because I know that you care about the town and you care about what's happening, and you want the betterment of the entire town to go forward rather than you being this, being a lightning rod, which some people have made you. One of the things that, I have this stack of papers here. This is the stuff that board members get, you know, starting in March, that we use to refer to things. We get all sorts of things, and one of the things that we got when we were looking at the town manager's salary is salaries of other town managers in Connecticut. And, you know, some people said they didn't care that your salary was the lowest in Connecticut. Some people said that they didn't care that even if he had the raise, that it would be the second lowest in Connecticut. But when you look at numbers that other people are at 159, 148, 153, 140, 143, 187, 161, and these are like-sized towns with, you know, similar type budgets. And you look at the fact that the town manager here in Winston oversees the police chief, oversees every town employee, oversees negotiations, oversees, you know, everybody's contracts, is responsible for the safety, through safety meetings in the entire town, whether we had another natural disaster or not. It's unfortunate that it comes to this, but having done this for a long time, my read on the situation is that people are gonna hold this hostage because of his salary and the votes. And there's a whole lot more data that I'll go into later in terms of why, you know, what happened with the budget, why things are are high. But I think his salary, unfortunately, became an easy target when you look at other things in the budget.
Jack?
Yeah, so I would reject that position because are we talking about the position or are we talking about the person in the position? And the position itself, as a town manager that has 12 direct reports and probably, 70 other non-direct reports in a town of our size, there is no question in my mind that the position is worth $140,000. I don't care who's in the position. It is worth that amount of money. If we were to have to go out and continue to look for a town manager, we're going to have to be competitive in that regard. And we knew when we were looking after Bob Geiger left and when we hired Josh that we were very fortunate in the fact that Bob Geiger was not at a higher rate that he could have been, because he certainly, in that position, deserved it. And when we hired Josh, it was apparent in the conversations that we had with him that he would come in at a lower rate to start. We were fortunate on that regard. But the position itself, no matter what anybody says, is worth $140,000. And I've heard from people who have felt the opposite of what you have heard, Candy, that it is the position that we should be voting on and the value of that position that we should vote on and adhere to. And I would reject any decrease in the line item for the town manager's position. I feel it's an important position enough in this community, and if we're going to start nickeling and taking 5,000 from that or 10,000 from that, nickeling and diamond, then we're going to do that with other positions. And we have already been in so many meetings, and we've said one of the biggest issues in this town is to try to hire competent people and pay them in a way that we could attract them and keep them here. And I would reject any motion and vote against any motion that would include a reduction in the proposed salary for the town manager.
Anyone else? Steve?
I hear you, Jack and Candace, but what we're seeing here is leadership, and I commend you for stepping forward to lead us. And I agree with Candy that there ought to be an appropriate raise, and we should look at other parts of the contract to see that we can be fair to you as well. Because what you've done so far, the salary of 140 would be well deserved, but the 2.5 is something that I think we need to live with, and I thank you for your leadership.
Other discussion?
Well, one thing I would like to add is that when we vote on this, and all of us vote on this, we should vote the position and not the person in the position or the experience of that person in the position. We should be very much aware, are we funding adequately the most important leadership position we have in this town, the CEO of this town? And if we are not funding it adequately in comparison to other town managers in the state of Connecticut and probably anywhere else, then we're doing a disservice to our own community in not being able to say we support the value of the town manager's position and we're willing to fund it. We all agreed 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, that it was a good and valid position and a good and valid salary. And I don't think we should pull back from that.
Candy?
Yeah, I think that, one of the conversations I had with somebody over the weekend is, and most people don't know this, is that the town manager in Winston, if we want to just talk about position, which we are, when you talk about the town manager position in Winston, it is a 30-day at-will employee. It is not like the superintendent's contracts that are 3 years long. It is 30 days. Any 5 members could decide that, no more, goodbye. So for 30 days, you're gone. So when you try to attract candidates, and I've been sitting here, as you all know, for over probably hiring, I don't know, 10, 12 town managers. We stopped revolving doors, back in 2014-ish. We have had a lot of progress. Since 2014, this board has been together. We've made a lot of progress in town. Developers want to come here because we're stable. Developers want to come here because the board has led. Developers want to come here and people want to start businesses here and people want to live here because the schools got better. People want to come here because Main Street's getting better. People want to do a lot of things to get here. There's a lot of plans on the table. There's a lot of things moving forward. The town manager's position is 30 days, and I don't know what people think's going to come afterwards. Let's say Josh gets an offer after this, or whatever happens, he needs to move for family reasons or whatever. The next person coming in here is not going to start at this salary. If you want to hire candidates that are coming from these other towns with these salaries, we put 125, we put 130 up on the table, 135 on the table. Where are our candidates going to come from? You have to remember when Bob Geiger was here, he was retired. He had his retirement income. He had all of that. And he was helping, he felt that he wanted to, give back to the town and help out. And, so we had raises at that time. But this is, I also said to somebody that, we put out the budget and the townspeople just voted about what should happen. And Jack, I disagree with people. There may be people that want it up, but I would say that most people want a reduction. And I've never seen a budget go up and get passed. So we know we're looking at cuts. We know that we have to think about the level of cuts. And Todd, I think, has put some reasonable numbers out on the table. Josh's salary is going to be one of the hardest things we do because all 7 of us don't want to do it. But I don't know that we're going to get the votes out on the streets because people aren't seeing this meeting. They haven't seen the data. They just see a number and they think that he's getting more money than anybody else in town has gotten or should get. And I understand that it's hard for people. I understand that the sewer rates went up $40 plus $40 plus the new rates. The water rates went up. Inflation has gone up. It's all gone up. So how do you retain employees when we know that Public Works has trouble attracting people? I talked to somebody at the state garage the other day. They have trouble because the private sector is paying more and there's people out there. So, this is a tough one, and this isn't something that we want to do because I think we thought long and hard about the budget, put out a budget that we thought was fair to everybody, where the school system got $500,000 for K-6, $500,000 for 7-12, and the town got $500,000. Granted, it's seems like a lot, but when you consider that in the past 6 years, we increased our spending because of growth. We did not increase the mill rate. We were doing things because we had 2% growth in residential. We're doing things because one year we got so many millions in business growth. So we were spending money. We are using our savings account. Our savings account is being used to fund capital for one-time items. People that are suggesting that we use our savings account to fund this budget in an operating budget will dig a hole that will have to be filled next year first before you put anything new on top of it. So the money in our savings account is being used. We aren't keeping numbers that are too high, and we are getting things done. So when the public votes all this down, then we get into these situations that we all kind of feel like is not right, but we don't really, it's not our choice anymore.
If I may.
Yes.
There have been a lot of comments already made, and I appreciate all of them about the town manager's position. I agree that it's important, whether it's me sitting in this seat, and of course, I think you all understand that it's not easy for me to offer some of this up. But whether it's me in this position or it's somebody else that you are looking to bring to town, $140,000 is the minimum that is paid to a town manager across the state. It is the next lowest paid town manager receives $140,000. If you are looking to be competitive with towns that are smaller than Winsted, never mind towns of the same size, we need to invest in this position. That being said, I do understand that having that number next to the town manager's salary line is an issue for individuals who are voting at the polls, and I am willing to play my part to the extent that the Board of Selectmen feels it's necessary. So, again, thank you for the comments. I leave that offer on the table for further discussion, and I know that at our Monday meeting we'll have an executive session where further conversation about contracts could certainly be held. But I do want to echo sentiments that I feel that the numbers that are on the table are reasonable. None of us, of course, want to see a reduction. We put the budget forward at the level that we did for a specific reason. We believed that that was the right budget at the right time, and we hoped that it would go forward. Barring that, I believe that I'll always accept a lower number, Todd, but $200,000 for the town and a $200,000 cut for the schools is palatable, at least from my perspective.
Thank you for saying that, Josh. I'd like to, may I continue? Or do you want to?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, you know, if we look at what happened on Saturday, 900 voters out of 6,591 registered voters and a massive amount of property owners that could have voted. Only 47 property owners voted. There was only 6 absentee voters of those 900 voters. I am not sure that I'm ready to say the budget that I believed in and fought for and approved and voted on with all of you at a meeting and supported should be even changed $1 because of the difference of 144 votes. We didn't get the voters out. We didn't tell people enough times what we were doing. There wasn't enough yes signs. There wasn't any yes signs, in fact. There were a lot of people who wanted to vote no. But we are at a point where we worked on that budget. We supported it. We voted for it. And we thought when we did, it was the best to offer. I see no reason why not to say it still is the best to offer. I don't think we should cut education if we didn't think that it should have been cut 3-4 weeks ago before we presented it to the public. I don't think we should cut anything more from the government if we didn't think 3 or 4 weeks ago we should have. At that point, we said this is the right budget to offer this town. And the fact that 144 people voted was the difference between the yeses and nos doesn't convince me that this is a budget that needs to have $200,000 more cuts in education and in government. I don't see it. I supported it then, and I support it now, the same budget. I'd rather see it just go back out and say, we support it, we fight for it, and we believe in it. You used the word believe a lot of times there, Josh, in what you just said. I believe in this budget. That's why we fought for it. That's why we put it out there. And I don't believe making cuts is worthwhile at this point.
Steve, you have something?
I was just gonna say, I appreciate your comments, Jack, but about 15 years ago, that strategy was tried. I think that was the year there were like 8 referenda before the budget passed. And I think it's just not something we need to do or want to do.
15 years ago, there were more than 900 people who voted, though, and we could make some judgments based upon the fact that maybe 2,000 people voted or 2,400 people. I remember those votes. There were a lot more people who voted than 900.
And we were being robbed at the same time.
None of which we had any control over.
Can I just,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't hope the TV comes back on.
You know, if you're gonna start showing where we should make some cuts, I think first of all, we should decide.
No, I'm not, Jack.
Okay,
I'm not. I want to explain why we have a problem the way we have it.
well, I think we have a problem because we don't get enough people out to vote and let people know what we're doing.
All right, so, I mean, if you want to talk about voting numbers, there were 144 was the difference. So we got 144 votes that have to move over or get 145 more people to come out. One of the things in the budget that we also heard was people were saying their taxes are all going up. No more taxes. Don't vote for more taxes. We're coupled with a revaluation that we've been talking about for a long time. So as most of you know, I've been doing all this, like a lot of data on it. And the fact is that not everybody's going up. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people whose overall budget is going to go down, who their taxes will be going down. And every time we cut more, so here's this last column over here, is the overall, total overall tax bill, if you may. And so what I did is I took samplings and I took the car taxes, because you all know car assessments. The mill rate goes down, the money you pay on a car will go down. So I used a 25.40 mill rate. So here's somebody's with what's happening at their house and what's happening with their car. They get a -50, a -840, a -112, a $59 difference, an $84 difference, $837, $575 less. And here's where some of the bigger numbers come in. Somebody will, with a new mill rate, will be up 907, 471, 681, 322, 192. And I do this because when I talked to somebody today when I was out on my bike, they didn't know that a lot of people's taxes, because of the mill rate drop in the cars, so if you don't own a piece of property in town, you own a car, your taxes will drop.
Or your assessment went down.
Because, well, the assessment stayed the same on the cars just about, or if
Right,
they
right.
depreciate. But because of the mill rate went down, the cars will drop. And so there's a few examples of cars and what their assessments are and what they drop on. And then properties too, not all properties skyrocketed. Some people did and some people didn't. But when you look at this, it shows you that no matter, we can't cut enough to help get people down in these areas to $100 or $200 increase. If we tried to get to these levels, these people that, you know, somebody wrote on Facebook, because, you know, we all watch it. Somebody wrote, I've never seen, you know, their taxes went up, I don't know, $2,200 or $3,000. Because of the way the reval is, and unless we want to start talking about the phase-in, a 3-year phase-in on taxes, where the upper levels will be brought down and the lower levels will be brought up, because that phase-in, you know, was something we talked about before. And the phase-in is the only thing that's going to help people at the very high end of their assessments on here. So when people go to the polls and they said, I'm paying too much, some of the people that were out there, and we can shut this off now, some of the people that were out there, my taxes are too high, are not getting an increase in taxes. And the people that are out there with really high taxes, I wish there was more we could do with them. But that's a reality of the situation that we're in with the reevaluation, hitting us at the same time as inflation, hitting us at the same time the sewer and water rates went up, and hitting us at the same time that the schools have done everything they could to have money from other sources in the past and from good efficiencies that they've had, but they ran into the wall. And so all these things came together to create this little perfect storm that we're sitting in here now. And so those numbers, I throw those out there, and I throw that data out there so that if people watch or you talk to people, it's like you can't fix unless you do the phase-in. And if you do the phase-in, a 3-year phase-in, which there are a bunch of proponents about, then the car taxes won't drop as far. Lower property won't drop as far, business property won't drop as far. And then they will carry more of a share than really properties that increase a lot in value. So it is a, we did do a good job, Jack. We did look at things. We, made conscious decisions, but the numbers of school referendum where I worked that failed, towns budgets that failed, I think it requires us to make a reasonable reduction to address some of the issues that we have all heard out there. And the important thing is to get the budget across this next line so that the town and the schools can operate over the summer.
Let me come back to your statement of we're at a perfect storm of events here, okay? I think the perfect storm of events was that most people in this town, let's say, again, 900 as opposed to 6,591, most people in this town are happy with what we've been doing and supportive of what we've been doing. And in that support have said to us, yeah, go ahead and put your budget together, but then didn't come out and support us because they said, hey, you guys are doing a good job. And what happened, I think, the perfect storm was that we just didn't get enough yeses to go out and support it, either from the schools, the parents in the schools, or from working independently, us. And for that regard, I come back to say, I don't know if I hear enough people saying it needs to be reduced. I don't hear what you're hearing. I hear different things. And from the people that you hear cut, I don't hear that. I hear people saying, why do we even have such a process in which if we don't like what you guys did, we'll vote you out in November. But present us a good budget that we can live with. And that's what we did. And if people didn't like it, November's coming up, vote us out, change it up. Put somebody else in who's going to cut, or do something different. But again, my position is I don't want to do anything with this. And any motion that comes up, you're going to see me say, I'm going to vote no on any cuts. Just letting you know. I think it's a budget that should stand on what we believe in. And I understand, Steve, from your point of view, yeah, we could get another no vote, but maybe not. Maybe we go out and really support this and really fight for it and do lots more than we have done in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get this out. And the fact that one person can go around and put up no signs wherever he feels like putting them up, in places that aren't even accepting of them, just puts them up, and we put up no signs that say yes, I don't agree. I think we're at a point where we as a board need to stand up for what we feel is the right thing for this community. And if it was the right thing 2.5, 3 weeks ago when we supported it, I think it's the right thing now.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate your words that we didn't do enough to get people who supported the budget out to vote. And as mayor, I'll take responsibility for not doing enough to get those people to come out and vote. Not that long ago, Winstead and Winchester was basically the punchline of a joke, and we have worked very hard to change that. Some people were never going to change their opinion of that, and that's just the way that's going to be. But we have worked very hard, and that's why I struggled coming up with a number to cut that still held the budget firmly in place where we wouldn't cut back on a lot of the advancements that we've made. But at the end of the day, 522 people were motivated enough to come out and say, nope, we don't support this. Whether, as you said, maybe they thought it was too low. I tend to think that most thought it was probably too high with the reevaluation, as Candy said. But I think starting at 200,000 and either adjusting it up or lower it is the responsible thing to do, and will still keep us moving forward, but will still keep us accountable to the residents. Go ahead, Josh.
If I may, to try and find perhaps some middle ground, not that this is necessarily where you should show up, but we've been hard at work already the last few days trying to think of, A, what number is going to come out of this meeting and try and guess what's on all of your minds, and 2, figure out what those cuts are going to entail, in knowing that something is going to come. I've had two items that have more or less fallen into my lap that I'll offer up as perhaps a minimum cut that could and should be made to the town side of the budget. First, we have a capital improvement plan item. That's improvements to Hannafin Road. It's a $50,000 item within the capital improvement plan. And with some hard work, Jim Rollins and Anne Marie Rowe were able to locate alternative funding for this project to be able to move forward. Additionally, on June 1st every year, we have, or the first business day of June every year, we have an update from our health insurance brokers. We had very good news today. Previously, we had a 6.9% increase projected in our health insurance costs, which was documented in our original budget proposal. Today, that not to exceed cost dropped down to 3%. Adjusting for that difference, that's $70,000 of change. That's $70,000 that could be saved. So I offer up to you, at a minimum, $120,000 from the town side, in addition to my salary should conversations go in that direction, and then any other items that the Board of Selectmen feels is necessary. I do only ask that as we go forward with hypothetical numbers, that you keep our recommendations and our professional experience in mind as we present data to you.
Candy?
Just a process piece. So we're going to meet again next week, right? This board?
Yes.
Like maybe Tuesday? Right?
One day next week, yeah.
Huh?
One day next week after
Yeah.
Monday.
So we could, so what we're doing right now is organizing ourselves and kind of getting kind of a direction we want to give to the town manager. And then the town manager will work with the superintendents to kind of see where these things, if we reduce, where it could come from and what are the impacts of it. If we can come to some sort of agreement here tonight in terms of what direction we should go in. And I think we need to reduce. I think we need to reduce and work. I mean, I don't think there's I won't go out with the same budget. I just won't.
Josh, I'd like to comment on the fact that you just mentioned $120,000 of potential savings and ways that you could do that. I'd like to look at that as $120,000 that could be applied to the 23-24 budget that may be able to improve roads, provide for more values within the community, improve the downtown area. And it's not that we're looking to save you found us $120,000 that we could cut from the 23-24 budget. I'd like to see that $120,000 in additional money that we could use in the 23-24 budget to improve roads. People are always clamoring about, we need more road improvements. So we do that. We use some of that for the capital, the $50,000 extra, and get that in a positive sense as opposed to looking at it as a way we could reduce. The health insurance, if there's another $70,000 we could save in that, and what you're proposing, I'd like to see that added to things that we could do positively in the 23-24 budget. So my position would be not that, oh, we could save it, but we have an additional way to improve the quality of what people want to see. They want to see better roads. We could use that. We could use that $50,000 in projects that are beyond what's already been planned. And the other $70,000 we could use in other projects around town that we want to get done, that we've been looking at positively get done. So I take a different point of view on that.
Okay. So I think, everybody on the board now, I think we need to know which direction we all want to go. Because Jack is, he does not want to cut, right? So where the rest of everybody? Do you think we need to? Do you think we need to take it down? What do we want the town manager to look at?
I think before we do that, well, the other question that I think we need to discuss, and you touched on it earlier, is the phase-in. And if the rest of the board is interested, I'm okay putting that question on the ballot at referendum.
What question?
Should the reevaluation be phased in over a 3-year period? Obviously, we would need to do quite a bit of education on what that would mean if we were to do that, but I think that's also an option that we need to consider. Because some, as we mentioned, some bumps are pretty big around town on some properties, and I think we need to put that option out there, or at least discuss it. And if we don't want to put it on the ballot, that's fine too. But I think that needs to be in the discussion over the next couple of meetings. So that's just something else for the board to consider.
Certainly, if we were to put that on the ballot, Todd, we need a lot of explanation, a
Right.
lot of public information.
That is correct.
Because I have spoken to people I know who asked about the revaluation, and I mentioned that, and they said, why? What, what is it gonna do? And I said, well, because it will reduce your taxes the first year. And say, what the heck? I'll pay it now. I understand that. And then they don't understand, well, how would it be phased in? There's a lot of explanation in that, and the simplicity of doing that can be very difficult.
Well, the reason that you would consider doing it is that because of the discrepancies between the lows and the highs, it reduces that discrepancy and allows everybody to carry the burden rather than just the upper part that carries the burden. Some people may be very happy with the upper part carrying the burden, and they don't want to see the lower part. They're happy to see the lower part get a $600, $800 reduction, whereas somebody else is getting the $3,000 reduction. But the other thing it does too, and this idea and recommendation wasn't something we here thought up. We see Naugatuck doing it, we see Waterbury doing it, we see a few other towns in the state doing it. But more importantly, it was recommended to us by somebody that's an expert in this field, that has their own business in another state, has seen this work, and has examined our revaluation on all sides of it, and has recommended strongly that we take a look at it to make it a more fair thing, but also to give people in next February, because we can't go to the Board of Assessment Appeals between now and next February. So if your numbers were up and you didn't quite understand the process, or you didn't realize some of the ways that you could reduce your assessment, whereas other people did reduce their assessment through that process, and there are things to have learned from the people that got reductions in their assessments, that we get to do it again next February and the following February, and it allows people to have that other opportunity to do that and have the assessment adjusted before it phases into the where it currently is. It is hard to wrap around in the education piece of it, but suffice it to say, the mill rate wouldn't be the mill rate we're talking about now. The mill rate would be a little bit higher, but properties wouldn't be as valued as high. So the property values wouldn't be up as high. The effect would happen on the cars, and so in cars, instead of being at 26, they might be at 27.5 if the mill rate was there. So the cars would be 27.5. They wouldn't get that 1.5 mil reduction on it. So it kind of works like that, but it is a concept that other towns are using it because of this, because of the impact of the pandemic and the prices of everything that went skyrocketing. It is something, like I said, that was recommended to us.
Candace?
I don't know if this is possible at all, because I don't know if our charter could allow us to have 2 mill rates. Is that only allowed if the state of Connecticut allows it? What would the difference be if we didn't drop the mill rate on our cars and did only the mill rate on the property taxes?
I know that it's legally permissible and possible under Connecticut general statute to have a separate motor vehicle tax mill rate from your
I'm just
personal
wondering
property and real estate.
what that,
But I'm not sure what the mechanic is to institute it. I don't know if it's simply your right as the Board of Selectmen to vote on that when all's said and done, or if there's a more detailed process. Let me find out.
Or what the impact would be,
Right.
just to find out what that impact would be if we didn't lower the personal property taxes and the car taxes.
Well, that kind of happened this past year when the cars were taxed at 32
32,
mils
right.
from the state requirement, and all properties were taxed at 33.45.
Right.
So we lost revenue that the state supposedly made up, but not all of it. So the 32 mil on cars was a 1.45 less than properties.
I was just wondering if we established a different mill rate for the cars, if that would have, what impact that would be. Because, you know, everyone's voting on what they have assumed is their assessment on their real estate, but not necessarily on their cars.
To get back to the phase-in, would you have an option if you didn't want to be part of the phase-in? If you accept a phase-in, everyone has to do the phase-in.
Yeah, it's a thing, you have to go to OPM to do it. Like Waterbury did, what they do, a 5-year phase-in, and then they were told that, you gotta do a 4-year, and then the council had to go back and vote on it.
Answering your question, I believe you're asking if it's all or none.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's everybody or nobody.
Oh, none, okay.
At least that's my understanding.
How difficult is that to calculate and compute, Josh? Is that, staff gonna be able to do that, assuming we have a budget in mid-June and July 1st is tax day?
My understanding is that any phase-in is going to be an administrative,
Nightmare.
I wasn't going to say nightmare, I was going to say headache. But it's a challenge. It's absolutely a challenge. It's not something that this town has ever done, to my knowledge. It's something that they are going to have to go out and rely on the knowledge of cities and towns that have had to initiate these on a more regular basis, and the help of OPM, but it's possible.
Josh, I have a question regarding something that Steve brought to mind. You know, the fact that, okay, we go out on referendum on the 27th of June, and it fails. Right? We still have to send tax bills out, correct?
So I will cover this actually in more detail at your meeting on Monday night. There are two options going forward. You can either vote on Monday night or at a subsequent meeting to defer the tax bills until such a time as you either A, feel it's necessary to send them out, or B, you have a budget in hand that's been approved. Or you have an opportunity to send out a first round of tax bills and collect on those with a supplemental going out.
Based on what tax rate?
It would be based on a mill rate that's calculated to levy the amount of taxes needed to fund last year's budget with this coming year's, fiscal year 2024's grand list. So it is complicated, and it would be a mill rate that no one has talked about or discussed up to this point in
Well,
time.
basically, it's the equalized mill rate.
Same as that.
Equalized mill rate, equalized budget.
Yes, equalized mill rate for the equalized budget.
Yeah.
Even if it was passed on the 27th, is that enough time? Then you still have to send out bills, and bills won't get out until mid-July.
Right. So it's not going to be realistic or possible for us to get all the tax bills out on July 1st. If the tax bills are deferred, that means that the due date would be deferred as well. So individuals in town aren't going to be penalized if they can't get their tax bills in before August 1st. They would have perhaps an additional month or an additional few weeks, whatever the case might
And
be.
would we have enough money to continue running the town under those 2 months of delayed tax returns?
According to an analysis that Cindy Rhines, our treasurer, did, she believes that we could operate at least through the end of August, if not through the end of September, without collecting any fees or any taxes.
Because we have a good fund balance.
It is all because of our good fund balance.
Of course, I knew that, but
I know.
I wanted to,
I just want to reinforce that.
yeah, I wanted to hear that.
My recommendation to you, so as to avoid any confusion on multiple bills, I don't think anybody wants to see 2 tax bills, and it is very costly for us to print, mail, and collect on 2 separate tax bills. My recommendation will be to defer until such time as we either have a budget or you feel it's necessary to send out a tax bill.
Fair enough, thank you.
I think that was done, that was what was done in the past.
Other discussion?
Well, I guess kind of what do we want them to be prepared to bring back to us for our meeting next week?
I think it would be prudent to at least examine the cuts that you can make to target our 200,000, and then we can, like we did last time, we can go down the list and approve them or reject them.
And the insurance rate also is, the reduction in that also, because we are townwide insurance, that would also be reflected for the schools?
I am not sure at this moment in time what the school's insurance rate would be. I hope that if that's the case, that would be welcome news for the school
I thought we
system.
had the same insurance, no, oh,
Yeah, I'm not
I didn't
sure
know
about
that.
that.
I thought we had this
Wonder if we're in the
buying
same pool.
of insurance
In
for a
the
pool.
same pool, we might not be, because the risk factors are different.
Right.
The risk in pools are different, we might, one of us might have pulled out because they were
Oh,
gonna be
okay.
paying more.
I always
than-
thought, you know, we had,
Water and sewer is on the same plan as us. I'm not
Yeah.
aware of our shared status with the school right now. I don't want to put Mel on the spot.
Mr. Mayor, should we leave this meeting with some direction to the town manager, or do you need to call for a vote of what we want to do as a philosophical position? You know my position, but should we make it a vote of the board? Before we put the town manager to work and look for other reductions and places to come to our Monday night meeting, if the board agrees that reductions are necessary, we put them to work. But if the board doesn't agree that that is, and we want to stick with the budget that we have, then he doesn't have to do anything. We just have to present that same budget. What would you suggest we do?
I think that it's probably best to get everyone's opinion, whether we move forward with cuts or put we can just go around the table, put the same budget on the table as you suggested, or make
I'll
cuts.
start reductions.
Jonathan? Questions? Candace?
only the reductions that you've recently found.
Okay. Steve?
Can you repeat that? I
The-
didn't hear that.
Me, my
Candace?
response?
Yeah.
Mine was only what they'd recently found as a way of savings,
The 120,000.
the 120,000. He had just found that,
But nothing from education.
no?
Steve?
Yeah, I
I'm
don't want
not
to make
gonna
any
cut in
cuts at
education's
all,
budget.
but I think the reality is that we need to make some cuts, and I think we need to give Josh a number before we walk out of here tonight.
Linda?
Agree.
Mine's
I'd cuts,
120,000.
but I'd like to stay away from education.
Okay. Jack, no cuts?
My position is I don't want to cut anything. I want to stay with the same budget that we approved and believed in.
And I will go with, do the work on the cuts, and we will vote on them individually at a future meeting. Hopefully, we can find more savings, or areas that, there are some line items that we discussed that I think could be lowered to outside agencies and such not. So I think that's somewhere to explore. That could be a little bit more too.
I'd also add that I won't go above a $200,000 cut. On both sides.
Okay?
I'll bring, if it's, I think that this would be the best way forward. Obviously, you know what the $120,000 cuts would look like. In addition to, so I'll have that on one paper. On a second page, I will have what it would look like if I was recommending a $200,000 cut. And then I will have on a third page a myriad of other items that if you so chose to save something, you really felt strongly that, for example, something else that I recommend for the $200,000 cut should remain in the budget. I'll give you a menu of options to choose from to switch in for that reduction.
Can we also invite Melanie to be part of our next special meeting?
Melanie, are you up for that? Be part of our next special?
Welcome to participate. I think it's important that you hear the impact from the education side of what
Yeah.
cuts potentially could have.
Right, so you'll do the same thing Josh is doing.
Say that again?
You'll do the same thing that Josh is preparing for.
Yes, what numbers would you like me to prepare for?
I think two scenarios, one 120,000 and a second one 200,000.
Because I said that I won't go over 200. I don't think we need to make more than a $200,000 cut. Doesn't mean that it can't be less, I just won't go over.
What's the objective here if we're going to cut? Are we looking to cut to a particular tax rate?
Yes,
What?
to get it down,
To what?
almost, take down a third of the mill.
To what, to 26 point?
Well, it's 26.83 right now. If we cut out $500,000, it would be 26 point, took out 5 out of 8, 3.8.
And do you really think that that's going to make a difference on a vote?
You know, Jack, if I had the crystal ball in front of me to tell me exactly where votes were going.
I understand we don't have a
do know
crystal
this.
ball.
I do know this, though, that nobody that I've known in my time in education at 3 schools and 3 different budgets and my 20 years here, I've never seen the same budget go out and get passed. And there was one budget in particular where they were actually protecting my position at the school I worked in, because people didn't think my position was necessary. It was nothing about me, it was just about the position, and they fought for it, and they went out the same thing, and it failed again. So
Yeah,
I've never seen that happen.
History has a way of repeating itself like that.
Right,
And
so
sometimes it doesn't.
Right, and I also say too, because as you know, as most of you know, we sometimes don't agree over here, but the fact remains is that nobody went and worked for the yes.
I agree.
You know, everybody, you know, there was the one person out there with the signs, but there were people accepting them, and there were other people that posted things on Facebook that led people to believe that probably wasn't a good budget, because we saw some of those out there too. So this time, and I know the school board is here, and other people, if we want people to vote yes, then we have to work as hard as the other people that were out there working hard for a no vote. And there's also people that would be, I've seen people in the past, like if you kept it the same, they may say, I'm voting no because you just kept it the same, so.
But some people just vote no, no matter what it
Well,
is.
last year, 402 people voted on a budget that had no mill increase. It had more spending from growth, it had some spending from our savings account because we had saved money the year before. So 402 people voted no on a budget that had no mill increase last year. So you may be right, people just like to vote no.
Yeah, it's just, and you know, the assumption here is that the no's came out, my position, and I agree with what, I like you to take the position that you did, Todd, but I think we all have that. We all didn't work hard enough to get out there and support the budget that we believed in. And it doesn't, you know, you're talking about historical stuff that happened and didn't, a similar budget got voted down again. It could happen again, I understand that.
We were lucky, we had 6 budgets in a row just pass because we had no mill increase. Some people's cars might have gone up in value, some people might have put an addition on their house, somebody might have built a house.
Andy, that brings me back to the point, people were pretty happy with what we've been doing. We heard nothing from, you know, February, March, April, we heard nothing, no negatives, even at the town meeting. There was hardly anything that was negative, except, you know, one person was asking a question, but there wasn't any motions to do anything. So we were in a position of believing that this is a good budget. People like it. We should support it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, move that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Do you have a date for when the special meeting is gonna be?
The special Board of Selectmen meeting next week, we don't at this moment in time.
Why
Tuesday or
don't we
Wednesday?
discuss
We have
If
a regular
everybody's
meeting.
okay with Tuesday?
Let's discuss
have
it
a
now.
Sorry?
Do we have a regular meeting next week?
We have a regular meeting on Monday.
Yeah.
My thought is you'll probably need to review numbers as early as Monday, take some time with it, sleep on it, and then you'll want to make a decision on Tuesday or
We
Wednesday.
have 2 meetings on Monday.
And
so
we have one
need-
at 6 o'clock, at public.
One at 6 and
the
one
town-
at 7,
yeah.
and then we need another meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What day are people available?
Available whenever you want, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'm available when anyone else is.
Jonathan?
I just, may I know this is
Go
a
ahead.
meeting, but I just wanna
What?
put a thought out there. The turnaround time on some of the decisions that need to be made, especially if we're talking about cuts and union concessions and stuff like that, that turnaround time to the 12th of a meeting is really short. So like, if it were me, I would be advocating for a special meeting on Saturday this weekend. Like, get in, get
table earlier in the week.
But we can't, the meeting that we're having next week, Melanie, is to bring a number to the annual town meeting. We can't have an annual town meeting realistically before the 12th.
I understand that, and I'm
She's
fine
saying
with
have,
that.
have work on the numbers on Saturday together and then have the number on Monday so that you can have the town meeting on the 12th.
Right. and
Well, we
I
can have the
start
town
to
meeting on the
work
12th, no matter when we
legwork of
meet.
Making this happen.
We can meet on, we can pick any day next week to have a meeting and still
She
have it
wants
ready for the 12th.
She's saying she needs it to be Saturday so that she could,
She has
This
all
Saturday?
week.
yeah.
No, she wants the special Board of Selectmen meeting to be this Saturday to discuss
can't.
specific
I
numbers.
can't,
Oh, that's right, Candy can't.
I can't.
How about Sunday?
I can't on Sunday.
Okay.
I mean, I could send you documents and you could review them, but
Right, right, right.
I'm not available to attend.
What about Friday night?
We can't because Linda's got the ball.
Oh, it's Thursday.
It's Thursday.
It's tomorrow.
I think we're moving as fast as we can move.
We could all meet tomorrow night at the,
At the ball.
At the ball, right? We can't, right.
Are we
She
there?
has to set it up.
That's right. We can't do it.
That was a joke. Tuesday, the 6th, 7 p.m.
Well, it could be earlier too. We don't
Yeah,
have
it
to
could be
at
early.
7.
Please, by all means.
I'm good, 5 or after.
Tuesday the 6th?
Tuesday, the 6th, 5 p.m.
Melanie, Tuesday the 6th at 5 p.m.?
What'd you say?
5 o'clock.
Okay, good.
Work it out.
All in favor to adjourn? Unanimous? Thank you.